have rangers to protect our wildlife species, our minerals that are under the protected area without harm. So you got the pushers, you got the miners that they have to prevent from entering those places. So forest and environment governance is still heavily challenged. The last time I checked, EPA is one of the least budgeted, least supported institution in the country. But you expect them to carry on awareness when we take the SKC Boulevard, when we reach the guy road for the police academy. You see the mangrove left and right all over there. No sample awareness, nothing. And how many people know some of what we learned here today? It's not because they don't want to do that, but the fundings, the support. And so the same thing applies to FDA. Forest governance, we have been finding means to support communities so that they manage their own forests. What's happening here today is we grant community forests to forest-dependent communities, and they are all waiting to turn it over to a businessman to exploit on their behalf. What do they have? Land rental, 55% of $1.25 per hectare, $1.50 per kilometer royalty. And so we tell our partners, most of whom have tried to encourage us to reduce the rate of deforestation. Let's support the community to manage their own forests. Let them see what's in it for them. And then we can see whether they can continue to give it to other business people. We haven't succeeded. Our people are not foresters. They don't have the technical know-how. They don't have the resources. The forestry sector is very capital intensive. One bulldozer, brand new, cost more than $400,000. Consequently, our people are forced to give the forest to people who go there and try to maximize profit, try to harvest in the shortest possible period because they want to make profit. So, the problem. Gender equality and women empowerment. Getru Kawaya is one of my products. She's the first female technical manager in FDA, and I appointed her. So she will speak for the women. I personally feel that women are very efficient, and when they are ready to be good, they can be really good. And oh yes, you know, for every side there can be some bad people, but women are more afraid for their needs than we, the men. And we have too many hurdles that put ourselves in trouble. So I think the more we get the women in the mainstream of management and everything, the better things will be. So what we can say to our partners and to our government is to continue to support these institutions so that they deliver. For instance, those boys that were sitting down here have educated us so much about plastic, its usage, etc., etc. But all of them are saying, like all of us in business in Liberia, startup capital support. All of us know now that plastic waste management is a problem. So the partners, please intervene, help them. And so it's the same with FDA and EPA, the two partners that are managing our forests and our environment. They need support to be able to do what they have to do. If they have to do what they have to do, somebody has to. Today, there is no more planting of any plantation trees in Liberia by FDA because the government had not delivered on the 10 cents per kilometer that they should give back to FDA from the stumpage fees. That had never happened. even the communities have not gotten their benefits as it's supposed to be. So we need to do a little more. Nigeria has done very well in various reforms in the forestry sector, regulatory, legal, etc. But implementing them, we are limited. And as long as we don't, it's going to be difficult for the agencies responsible to be able to deliver on what they had to deliver. Let me stop here and turn over to others.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Kanye. Dr. Emmanuel Olatunji.
Natural capital accounting is the focus, and in dealing with these challenges, I would like you to piggyback from what Mr. Kanye has said in the context of enhancing sustainable forest management, the GEWE carbon economy. From your perspective, from CI's perspective, what would be your responsibilities?
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to say it's an honor to share the stage with pioneers in the forest sector. So, to your question, my first solution is going to be, or the first thing I'm going to propose is going to be the financing. So, we mentioned challenges in terms of having finances to support government effort. So, what do we mean by innovative financing? One of the approaches that we are trying to adapt is blue carbon finance. Now, in Liberia, we have approximately 35,000 plus hectares of mangrove ecosystems. And blue carbon can be found in three major ecosystems. In generally, we have seagrasses, you have mangrove ecosystems, and you have salt marshes. Now, in Liberia, we have this thing. And this, in other countries, are new approaches that people are adapting to generate income. We have nature. We want nature to pay for itself. The government really don't have to stress itself anymore in terms of sourcing money from here and there, because it's exhausting, to be honest. We run projects, after 2-3 years, the project runs out and then we have to look for another money again. So we now are trying to find other means of which we can harness more money without putting stress on the government. So right now, what we are doing, we are conducting a blue carbon feasibility assessment in the Piso and Marshall wetland to know the carbon potential in that area. Once we have that information, it's going to inform us on how to identify potential buyers who's going to invest in the blue carbon in these areas, and then the proceeds will then be used to empower the community to also fund more conservation efforts. I'll say this, sometime April this year, we launched the Liberia Conservation Action Fund. So it's a 500,000 seed money that will be used to support CBOs, youth organizations, universities as well, to support conservation efforts. I'm not sure most of you are aware of this, but the first RFP is coming up before the month ends. So these are some of the ways in which we are trying to support the effort of the government. And apart from this, we already had previously the Liberia Conservation Trust, wherein Congo International contributed about $1 million, I think that was around 2018, $1 million into the trust, and this trust is supposed to generate the profit, interest, I would say, and then the interest will be used for conservation efforts. So all of these things we are putting in place, and from that Liberia Conservation Trust, the government also is supposed to contribute to match that $1 million with another $1 million as well, and is yet to happen. But fortunately for us, the $1 million I will place in that have already accrued almost 300,000 plus interest. So that interest now will be redirected back to the community to support the government, to support local NGOs in carrying on conservation efforts. And another thing I would like to mention is talking about natural capital accounting. One of the things that, one of the challenges we have is data. We don't have information. How can we write projects? How can we take action when we don't have information? What do we have in terms of the forest cover? How many hectares do we have? What is the condition of the hectares that we have? What ecosystem services do these provide? What are the value of these things? When we have all of this information, then it can help us to make informed decisions. It can help you to go and negotiate. So now the project I manage right now, the natural capital accounting, is more like piloted in coastline right now. So we are looking at only mangrove ecosystems. Now, what we're trying to do is we are trying to quantify the hectareage of mangrove ecosystems we have in Liberia. After that, we want to know the condition. Is it degrading? Where is it degrading? What is causing the degradation? And the next thing is, what ecosystem services do these things provide to the communities? Then after that, we try to attach monetary value to this thing, because discussing with policymakers, we tell them to protect the mangrove, all they see is trees. But if you attach $sign or dollar to this, if you tell them that the mangrove ecosystem in Liberia contribute $5 million, for instance, to the national economy, they will see money, not see trees anymore. And then with that, they will put more seriousness, more effort, more vigor into putting more resources into this thing. Also, I'd like to say that another thing we need to put effort into is involving the community into managing the resources. I've been following Mr. Senior work, and also we've been working in that direction. So one of the angles we are working from is the signing of the conservation agreements. So in February this year, we signed 6 conservation agreements with 6 communities. Now, this conservation agreement has 2 major parts. We have the conservation actions, and you have the conservation benefits. So what happens is we go to the community, we do something called the feasibility assessment, try to understand the dynamics of the community in the interaction with the resources, for instance, the mangrove. But we don't know their leadership, if they are organized or not. But we don't want to go there and just dump resources on it, dump money people, don't call the mangrove again, take the money here. The thing is, it's more like a dash from the NGO, and that's the perception. So, for instance, you get the money, they will not cut it. When you finish, they go back there. So we have to really understand why they shouldn't cut it, tie their livelihood to why they shouldn't cut it. So whenever the money finish, they know that this is important to our livelihood too. That's why the NGO is no longer here. Now on the conservation agreement, what happens is we go to the community, talk to them, and then we try to negotiate. Don't cut the mangrove anymore. In exchange, what do you want? I was in San some part of November last year, and I met one lady. I explained everything to her, and then she was like, "My brother, we know the law. We know that the law exists. We know all of these things. But every Saturday, I encounter mangrove, I cut it and I sell it to pay my children's school fee and to eat. So now you're telling me that I shouldn't cut it. What am I going to do?" So you see, so I told her, that's why we are here. We are bringing resources to you. We are going to negotiate. But what we are going to negotiate with you, we want to make sure that we understand your needs, not your wants. Now, most NGOs, some organizations go there, they just want to fulfill the requirement of the project and just walk away. But you have to understand the people's needs. What do they want? Now, you want to catch some hunger, and then teach the men to leave carpentry. Then you are giving an alternative. If someone who call the mango, for instance, teach how to make soap or teach how to tailoring, and then from that activity, then you won't go back there because you have alternative, right? I was somehow somewhere with my own mention the place, and then we're having community engagement. While we were there, we can get the power soil in the mango. And then I was like, man, let's go, the guy also say, let's go start the man. I said, man, we said. We came to engage the community. You don't want to enter the mango with no power soil. We were very comprehensive before we bring it down to EPA and then EPA act. Yeah, so we want to maintain. So, no, that's just the whole issue. And then, lastly, I would like to talk also, this is a little bit outside the scope, the academia. I'm also part of that. You notice that what I said about data cannot be only relied on the government. The universities have to help as well. EPA can do the research, at the same time do the implementation. Universities have to help. You need to provide the data as well. And I'm talking to the lecturers, the professors. Sometimes you say, oh, there's no money for the university not providing money for us. But then EPA provides consultancies every day. Why can't you apply for these things, use some of these courses and do research, and also empower the students? When you get a consultancy, bring the students on board, you work together. They will learn from it, even if you don't want to pay them. They will learn from the process. As soon as you have resources for research. And before I close, I would like to say that I like to subscribe to the consensus sustainability framework. This key core is personal value. We cannot achieve environmental sustainability if we don't have personal value attached to the environment. If collectively we have personal value towards the environment, there will be institutional culture. That means we will work together to bring out policies and guidelines and rules and regulations, and also we will be convicted. Every time we say, don't cut the mangroves, it's more like, yeah, the EPA say, so I'm saying it. No, we have to be convinced about the whole thing. And if we are convinced, there will be economic justice, because now we all have the resources and we all benefit, because we know if we protect it, we all benefit in the community. So I would like to end with this quote. We can only protect what we love. We can only love what we understand. And we can only understand what we are taught. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Olatunji. I would like to say, in the context of carbon economy and allow, Liberia is currently implementing a big forest-related portfolio that's addressing deforestation and forest degradation. We will come to the issues of livelihoods, and on this panel I know that Silas, Professor Yinka, Jason will do more on the issues of governance and livelihood, but at this point in time, I want to stay with the carbon economy aspects, the benefits associated, and what we can do to improve forest cover in Liberia. So at this point in time, from staff perspective, Mr. David, will you please provide input to this conversation?
Thank you so much, Bowen, and we want to say on behalf of the Forestry Development Authority, thanks to the organizers, especially the Swedish governments. I am one of the beneficiaries. I grew up in a community that was really a mining community that the Swedish government invested a lot of resources into. So today I can see part of me is what the Swedish government had to put in me. Having said that, we want to say thank you also to the panelists that spoke before us. When we sat here, we listened, a lot of people spoke on climate change, climate change, climate change. So what it means to me, and to most of us who have been champions around here for a little while, it means the message is beginning to resonate. And so the question is, how can we now keep on with the momentum that is starting to generate around here? With that said, I want to firstly say that there is a lot of data in country. I think the issue that we have in country is who to go to or what institution to go to locate a particular kind of data that you need. And I think that is where the EPA has started moving us towards having most of what we have online. Like the FDA website, we've been working on it, trying to push it forward to ensure that some of the data that we have in terms of the forest sector is online also. With that said, the good news for us as Liberians is that what the rest of the world is looking for, we already have. And that is the forest. If you look at the remaining upper Guinea forest, at least 40% of the remaining upper Guinea forest sits right in Liberia. In 2018 and 2019, we conducted our first national forest inventory. As a result of that forest inventory, there was a myth that we dispersed. The first myth all along has been that Liberia forest size was around 4.5 million hectares. Out of the results of the 2018-2019 inventory that was done, the forest size of Liberia is 6.65 million hectares. So it tells you that we still have a good size of forest. That is data. It means we already know the size of forest that we have. Right? So we are moving into carbon economy. The first thing you need to understand is that you have a forest. You know the size of the forest. The next thing is, in the forest that you have, what percentage of carbon sink is in your forest? And so if you look at what we did in Liberia, with the help of the FAO, it was a team of Liberians, university students from the Forestry Training Institute, and of course, the FDA itself. Those were people who went in the forest and did the inventory. On the basis of that, we can tell you safely that what we have in terms of carbon stock in our forest per hectare is 313 tons of carbon. Multiply that 313 tons of carbon by 6.65 million hectares of forest. It tells you that at least the carbon sink that we have in our forest currently is somewhere around, the minimum is around 2 billion tons. Multiply that by the current price of carbon, which is at least $5. You know exactly where we are going to. So Liberia has a potential. The question is, why have we not tapped into this potential? And I think the reason why we have not tapped into this potential is simple. It is because the commitment from us, and I say from us as a government, and the commitment from communities, especially from us as a government, has not been forthcoming. How has it not been forthcoming? If you walk in the corridors of power today, in Liberia, Ministry of Agriculture, the FDA, the EPA, the Ministry of Finance, all of the songs we keep hearing, carbon economy, green economy, carbon financing. Have we, as a country, played our part to ensure that we begin to reap the benefit from our forests? We have done a couple of things, but there are still other things lacking. What have we done? From the side of the government, specifically the FDA, in 2018-2019, we conducted our first ever national forest inventory. That's the first thing we have done. The second thing we did, out of that forest inventory, we came out with what is called our forest reference emissions level. For short, it's called a frame. We presented that to the UNFCCC. Today, if you go on the website of the UNFCCC, you will see the baseline for Liberia frame. That is the second thing we have done. The third thing we have done as a country is that we do have in place our monitoring, reporting, and verification system. And in order for a country to benefit from Red Plus financing or carbon, you must be able to have in place a system that will verify the information you give out before you have outsiders to come in to verify your information. We do have in place a monitoring, reporting, and verification system. We also have in place, as a country, our Save That information system. And all of what I've just spoken about are things that the international community asks countries like ours that have forests to say you must have in place these mechanisms before we can move forward in terms of moving towards carbon payments. But let us get it clear in this room. The carbon payment per country or for a country is as a result of your actions that you take as a country to reduce the deforestation, forest degradation, and so it increases your carbon sink. What we have in place now at the UNFCCC is our baseline. So as a country, if we want to benefit, we must reduce the rate of deforestation, and so the way we do agriculture has to change. That's the first thing. The way we do mining has to change. The way we do forestry has to be improved upon. So those are some of the things that have not happened. What also have not happened for us as a country is that we do not have in place a benefit sharing mechanism for Red Plus. People listening may say, no, you have a benefit sharing mechanism in place. Yes, we do have in place a benefit sharing mechanism for forestry, for concessional forests, right? That is what we refer to at the FDA as the 30-30-40 benefit sharing mechanism. But that benefit mechanism is directly for commercialized forestry. And so commercialized forestry is where the extraction of the timber, commercialized forestry is where the timber is being extracted. And so in the case of Red Plus, if you are asking a community to say, let your tree remain standing, then it means, in my mind, you need to give that community more than the 30% you are giving them. The reason is simple, because the carbon sink is from that tree, right? And so you are paying for the tree to remain standing. But the point here, the other side of it is, if you continue to give the communities the 30% that you are giving them for the commercial forestry, the community is incentivized to go into commercial forestry rather than going into the carbon tree we are talking about. The reason is, when that timber is extracted, the community gets the 30% they are supposed to get, and it also creates a farmland. So there will be a win-win situation for the community then. What do? We need to improve upon the beneficiary mechanism that we have in place currently. Give the communities more, if it is for Red Plus, give the communities more than the 30% we are currently giving them, to dissuade them from now going into commercial forestry that will reduce the size of the forest. I want to stop here for now. We will continue.
That's an interesting concept, especially for benefit sharing. It's interesting because the benefit sharing is a law. In fact, it's built into the National Forest Reform Law. It calls for that particular distribution of benefits. I am between whether continuing with this conversation on carbon economy, because when I switch to governance, the need for governance, enforcement, livelihood, I would like just to concentrate on that completely. So building on from what Sal has spoken, I would like to go along with Professor Nika on your perspective when it comes to carbon economy, green economy in Liberia, the role our forests play.
Thank you very much. Many thanks to the EPA and our partners for organizing this program and inviting us here. I don't want to hear anything called Bobo for NASA, please. But let me just provide complimentary opinion on a few data sets that were released by Izumpo. He said that the 2018-2019 forest inventory was the first in Liberia. No, that is not true. There was a survey done by the U.S. Economic Commission in the early 50s, led by Tucker Rosso and Carl Mayer. There was a forest inventory also done by the German Forest Commission. And we have 12 volumes of that report available. There was a forest inventory done by FAO and the government of Liberia in 1985. After that, we have a series of forestry inventory done by the Peter Hess report, the World Forest Cover report, etc. The next thing is that some of the reports are referring to the forest cover of Liberia, putting it at 4.8 million hectares. It's not a myth. I was embarrassed when I heard the word myth. The current figure that we are putting on the forest cover is because of the redefinition of what forest constitutes. Those days, they were looking at diameter limit, and I don't want to go too far. I don't want to say that the definition is sufficient. Go to the issue that has the 5 minutes. Green growth, green recovery, carbon economy for the youngsters who will soon be replacing some of us. Simply means lower, reduce, if possible, remove carbon dioxide from your economic drive processes. We want to develop economically right. In the process, we ignite carbon and we release carbon to the atmosphere, or carbon dioxide. That's what we call the low carbon economy or decarbonating economy. Wow. Speakers before me talked about what we're doing in red. And I'm concerned about the other issues made by previous speakers too, about how we've done a lot in terms of off-site, on paper. Implementation is becoming an issue. When I say we've done a lot, SeaWorld, the folks at FDA and red have completed that was brilliantly presented by Mr. Daly. Now, governor of Liberia, they did national policy and response to climate change. They done part of this biosecurity strategy. They done the national biodiversity action plan. They done the national drought plan. Then, at the government level, they've done a revision of the PAPD, incorporating environment, general, and climate specific in this plan. They revised the economic recovery plan, and I can report because our economic advisor to the government of Liberia at that time, they have incorporated or mainstream more than 50 targeted action and investment across different sectors. In the traditional sector, renewable energy, resilient infrastructure, economic smart agriculture, another ingredient, health, education, and tourism. Green economy. We had a support from the NDC, National Determined Contribution Partnership Green Recovery Program, and we have CR working with the government of Liberia, and through that process, the NDC was concluded. The mainstreaming of finding the pathway or the entry point or the opportunities for mainstreaming green recovery into the national economy has been done. I saw the name of some of the folks from the Ministry of Finance. I'm not too sure that's what the reports are published for us to go through and for our students to also, have access to them. Not to cut the long story short, we can, there's no talking about getting funding from the carbon market. So let me look at it from back and forth. From the back part, the gases that are responsible for climate change, you know they call it the GEWE, right? Very good. And the troublesome ones are carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. Wow. The most troublesome one is carbon dioxide. Because carbon dioxide contributes 11% from forest and other land uses, 65% from all industrial processes. I'm quoting from the RPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change 2014 Fifth Assessment Report. I'm also citing the US EPA February 2022 report. Now, methane accounts for 16% and nitrous oxide 6%. You see, the most troublesome one is around carbon dioxide. I'm dragging towards Liberian forests. Why are we in a pretty good position to join the globe to fight climate change? Because we have functional rainforest cover. And in our second-based science, it says green plain taking what? Carbon dioxide and deep water. And this carbon dioxide we don't need because it's a GHG. So if we have functional forests, and as they were saying, we can keep our forests functional, we can enter into the carbon market, we can either enter into the compliance market or the voluntary market. But he said, NRV. No one going to give you cash for the carbon according to you sequester in your forest or as I saying until it is NRV. Let me stop there for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Everything is predicated upon NRV and compliance to reduce deforestation. I mean, when I listen to you and I listen to Sir David, one recurring theme comes to mind that I think we are slightly confused with the definition of inventory and assessment. That's the only thing I know, forestry. So, and I've said it at your feet for a long time. So, the periods you are mentioning were assessments and reassessments, including the Liberia LSI and even from the German Forest Mission. I think so far that's what I know. And when it comes to the definition of forest in Liberia, of redefining forest, for those of you who don't know, Liberia defines forest as 5 meter minimum height over 1 hectare, and it has to be 30% canopy. So if you don't know, use your phone, go and say Liberia forest definition. But that's just one aspect. One other point you made. I just want to close this conversation to go to the other parts. Forestry, FAO has a repository on their website where all the Liberian laws and reports are currently being done. And if you're really interested in learning, you can go on that particular website, FAO.org, and go to Liberia. Because FAO has entire platform, all the countries, go to Liberia and all the legal framework, all the reports are there. Now, with all your carbon conversation, with all your green economy really play a strategic role. So none of these things will be effective if you don't have a strong governance mechanism. And that governance mechanism has to be on the platform of accountability, transparency, and legality. And this is where I would like to, for the remaining of this conversation, go along with Mr. Salah Siako and get to the legal part as well as the role women play. Get to, from your perspective, gender equality, women empowerment in this sector to promote, to influence governance. I would like to know, from your perspective, how can we achieve this?
Thank you. Let me stay on existing protocols by thanking the organizers of this program. And I'm also grateful to two of the platform guests who have been my mentor, Mr. Yekan, who taught me in college, first degree, and respect to you, sir. To the Honorable Chairman, Honorable Harrison County, he's been a role model for all of us. Thank you, sir. So let's look at governance in forestry. When we say governance, what do we mean? So let's backtrack a little from the sanctions. We all know Liberia was under sanction for the misuse of the forest. From 2003 up to 2006, the sanction was lifted and we developed the first framework after sanction, which is the 2006 National Forestry Reform Law. That law was the beginning of strengthening governance in the sector, thereby attributing it to sustainable forest management. When the law was passed in 2006, the framework of the law otherwise, looking at all of the products of the sanction, all of the investigations done in our country, so whether it's a need to empower our communities so that they can use, they can manage, and they can benefit from the forest resource. And so there came a 2009 community rights law that is most talked about. That law set the basis for community to participate, to empower communities, thereby empowering gender. So we know that when we talk about gender, it's both men and women, right? But let's look at the role of women. How can we strengthen our role in forestry? How many women are doing forestry, leading forestry? Any women are leading forestry? One person. So how will our role be strengthened? If we all see forestry as a more dominant area, how will our voices be heard if we are just few? Now look, we have a very serious role. Whether you are an urban woman or you are a rural woman, we have serious role in the forest. Like you, an urban woman, if the baby is sick, you will run to the hospital, right? Right? But a rural woman will run to the forest. She will gather leaves. She will boil the leaves. She will minister in the way will kick and get robbed. So as you see the hospital as a source of health, the rural woman sees the forest as her hospital. As you see the supermarket as the place of feeding the family, the rural woman sees the forest as her supermarket. So you cannot speak with a louder voice as a woman if you not tell this thing. The discussion around forestry is a very serious discussion. For example, if you are in your house today, the world woke up to COVID. Nobody knew where it came from. So have you ever thought about one day paying for oxygen for you and your kids? Who ever thought about that? As a mother, you will first need to put the oxygen in your baby's face, right? Instead of putting it in your face as a woman. So the role of women in managing our forest resource cannot be overemphasized. We have a crucial role, we have a vital role, to pay industry, then you must be a part of it. You cannot be a part of it if you don't know what it is. You cannot make valuable contributions if you don't take interest in the environment. A healthy environment depends on you because of the numerous roles you have to play. It is you who go to the market. It is you who have the ability to buy the plastic. It is you who use new plastic every day in the market. It is you who use plastic dishes in the room. So your role is so vital into a sustainable forest that we can all enjoy. So now, when we come to governance, and we look at the role in governance, I'll just take you to the community rights law. So all across our country, we have 144 applicant communities who have requested government that they want to manage their resources. Of that number, we have 48 communities that have obtained forest status to manage their resources. What is interesting is that to manage our resource, we have different layers of governance, 3 basic layers: the community assembly, the executive committee, and the community management body. What is interesting is that with those number of persons that are involved in governance, most times you have only one woman who will be the treasurer. Sometimes you have a group governing about 50 persons. Secondly, when we go to these meetings, societal and traditional norms have impacted the way we make contributions in our meetings, especially as it relates to the rural area. So you see a woman in a meeting and a man in the front, and she didn't say a word. We asked, can you say something? She said, well, the men didn't say it. So it is about time that we all understand that we have a stake in the sector. If we cannot express ourselves, it is us who suffer the most, because we no longer have forests to go to administer treatment to our children, and we walk long distance to get even food for our families. It is a very serious matter that is confronting us. It is something we have to look at. Now, not only are staying away from forestry. Not only are seeing forestry as the most dominant area. Of course it is. If you want to be a strong woman in forestry, you got to have a tough skin. You got to have a tough skin because it's not an easy terrain. But if I win it, you can surpass me. One shot for every woman in the house. 2 shots for every woman in the house. So that is the way to go. The way to go is for your voice to be heard. And for your voice to be heard is to understand what the issues are. If you don't understand what the issues are, how can you empower yourself? How can you reach a point to know how can I keep my environment healthy? You really know. All you know is the lifestyle. And women, we have very peculiar lifestyle. And because of our lifestyle, we become better managers if we are educated to most of the things that cause harm in our environment. Most time, when we are placed in leadership, we also become better managers because we are afraid of stigma. So we protect whatever we have to protect. So I encourage everyone here today to take key interest in your environment, to take key interest in the way you use the environment, to take key interest, and to also think about other women that are not privileged as you are, but they are way there in the interior, depending on you and I to make a case for them. I cannot be alone making our case. You have to join me so that we speak with a louder voice and speak above the men, so that they know women have a role and women can make a difference in the society. Lastly, our approach to sustainable governance is to also look at our partners. What have we been doing since 1972 during the Stockton Agreement? It's been 50 years. What have we been doing that has been giving us the same result? What can we now do differently? And I'll give you 2 counts to close. 1, let's look at how we monitor forestry for sustainability. The bulk of monitoring is in government. does the government really have the capacity to monitor the forest for sustainable use? Partly because government envelope is always small. So there are other competing needs that government will stretch out. So I think it's about time that our partners look at monitoring forest sector. Because if we wake up one morning and there is no tree and we cannot breathe and we have to buy oxygen, it means we are all dead. If I ask you to close your nose right in this room for 10 minutes, the ambulance will just be out to pick up some people. That is how serious the situation is. So the approach of our partners is to support government in monitoring and in managing the forest sustainably. My second point is civil society organizations. They have been wonderful partners to the government. They have done tremendously well in our sector. But there's a big but. They need to improve the technical capacity as to what they are monitoring and what should be monitored cannot be overemphasized. You don't want a civil society organization that only say, oh, we saw long passing with it, and we saw this, we saw that. No. You need to understand exactly what is happening in the sector. And to do that, they must be specialized, they must have technical understanding, and they must do better reporting. And that goes to our media. The media has been helpful, but because of limited capacity, they have not been able to really put out the message that will cause actual shift to government to improve governance in the sector. So there is a clear call for those stakeholders that are interested in sustainable forest management to make it their duty to understand the technical rules. Always remember that sustainable forest management has to consider the environment, it has to consider the economics, it has to consider our social well-being. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Madam. Thank you so much. I mean, you gave me a joker right there when you said that, well, the issue overtake us. I was like, okay. I thought we were talking about equality now, but it's almost like we're, you know. But that's, I mean, it shows that this particular panel is really invested and really informed about the issues. I do not want to make any progress without dealing specifically with livelihoods and the principle of governance. And livelihood and the principle of governance will I mean, there's only one person who can, in my opinion, adequately deal with that right now. And that's, our big brother and friend, Salas Seattle, who sees the head of IDH Sustainable Trade. And from your perspective, enhancing sustainable forest management in the context of governance for livelihood, for local communities, we would like to know your perspective.
Thank you. I think all the speakers before me made some really interesting points, and I would like to piggyback on them and then come back to the point around livelihood. One line that cuts across all the comments that were made is the issue of governance. I'm a bit concerned that talking about governance and not properly defining it might leave us with some of the misconceptions that we have coming into the room. What exactly does that mean? A couple of things I want you to think about. The way we make decisions, the way we implement or don't implement those decisions. When we fail to implement, the way we are held to account for not implementing what we agreed on. The rule of law, that if we agree on systems and processes, people will abide by them. And if they do not abide by them, they will be held accountable. So it's a whole basket of things that need to be considered. And the reason why this is important is because I'm glad that most of the people that spoke before me were all, they have to be politically correct. So I can be the bad guy, Most of the problem we have in the sector is a matter of governance failure. The institution being weak, the rules not being enforced, the procedures not being complied with, the processes not being followed. That has been the problem from day one. 20 years ago, that was Chancellor's, 2002. We did a report. Then I worked for a local NGO. Plundered the silent destruction of Liberia's rainforest. The issues we raised at the time were one, communities were not getting a fair share of the benefits from the sector. The timber companies were being allowed to run amok. They were causing havoc all over this country. They were employing Malaysians, committing heinous human rights abuses. All of those issues were there. Fast forward to 2022. We've made a lot of progress. We've changed the laws, we've changed the regulations. For example, for the very first time, we have a regulation of public participation making it a requirement that the public must be involved in how government develop new policies, new regulations, new laws. To the extent, in fact, that if we want to do a new regulation, we got to put it out there for 60 days minimum. Before, somebody could say today, the regulation on the books, the after today, you come to regulation change because somebody doesn't like it. And this all know that the regulation has been changed, so you continue to use the old one and say, oh, the law has changed already. So we've made a lot of progress in terms of changing the rules of the game. But here's the problem, and I think a lot of people before us, and even on this platform, alluded to that. Our failure to implement those good policies and laws are a big part of the problem that we are facing. And I'll give you one very concrete example. Right after we adopted the National Forestry Reform Law, we put into place the regulations. The first 7 concession agreements that were issued in 2009-2010. 3 years later, we commissioned an international audit, and they found that all of those concessions were allocated a conservation of different legal requirements. So we got 2 lines on the books, but we don't put them into place. That's a very big problem. But notwithstanding, I think we need to look on the bright side. And that's where I think sitting between Honorable Conway and Sa feels a little bit almost as though to me was some kind of calling for me. Because the two of them were at the forefront of the negotiation with the Norwegian government back in 2014. There's a lot of good ways to run this country. In 2015, when we were still struggling with the Ebola situation here, the Norwegians were talking to us as a people, Liberia. We negotiated and agreed to provide $150 million to the government of Liberia. About $80 million of that money was supposed to be delivered only based on results that we are able to show that we've actually reduced deforestation, or we have actually reduced degradation in our forests. I'm not sure whether we received any of that money, whether we've been able to demonstrate to the satisfaction of the Norwegians that indeed we have reduced, and so we can start to tap on that 80 million. If I'm not mistaken, that 80 million is still lost because we have not been able to demonstrate that we have reduced deforestation. The remainder of that money was to be spent on different institutional strengthening, strengthening law enforcement, a whole range of different actions. But just because we have at a point in the day, I think we all are very exhausted, I want to leave with a very positive note. Last year, the organization I worked for, the organization that I had in Liberia, we were fortunate working with other partners. We have an agreement with the government of Liberia and made some of that money available because we want to test a particular concept. And I think so I touched on that and we're going to go into detail. The thinking is that if we can deliver real benefits to communities, if we can work with communities to improve their agricultural practices, if we can work with them to deliver some of the social infrastructures that the local companies promise them, we believe there is a very high likelihood that they will pay them on the local companies. But the typical Liberian would say to you, drive to the street, the well you'll be eating before the dog gets dry. So you can promise everything about how to do your service family will deliver benefits until you can put something on the table. Nobody's going to take you serious. So I'm very grateful to the FDA, the Environmental Protection Agency, the government of Liberia as a whole, and we are working with them to try this concept out in Sino in Grand Direct University. So as I speak, we are at a point where the community surrounding Sapo National Park in Sino, we are just about to sign an arrangement with them, a framework agreement that will allow us to put $1 million into their communities in return for a commitment that they will change some of the practices on the ground. And the good thing about the approach we are taking is that we are not putting that money through NGOs. We have reached an agreement with the county, the authorities at the county and the district level. We put in place an arrangement whereby, for example, the 51 wind farms that will be constructed in the communities there, the contractor will be hired, but the local people will monitor and supervise the contractor. Because what we see most of the time is that the NGOs, they send in contractors, the contractors have no deal with the community, and so if they are supposed to be using one cement for one wheelbarrow and one wheelbarrow contract to do a cover, they use 3 wheelbarrows and 3 wheelbarrows of contract, and so the cover on us. But through this, they are hoping that by putting them in the front line to monitor what the contractors do, and they know what is supposed to go to them, they are able to say to the contractor, this is not what you are supposed to do, and this is unacceptable. The second aspect, the second benefit of that is that sometimes when you hear the numbers, you think, that's heaven on earth. Because sometimes people say 1 million, oh, that's not money. But when we talk about, 50 hair pounds, we talk about over $200,000. $200,000 disappear, just 50 hand pumps. Then when we start talking about renovating 19 schools, each of them will put $5,000 into it, you go more than $100,000. Before you make it, you might have money finished. So our approach is if they can see that money, passing before their eyes and they know where the money goes, then the next time an NGO shows up and says, I got $50,000 to do this, their expectation will not be too high. Because we will say to you, well, we saw the $1 million we spend here, we ourselves, we saw higher rent. So we don't really expect $100,000 to change our lives. But that's where we are, and we are hoping that we can work with the government, with the FDA, with the EPA, and the other partners that we are working, and we are extremely hopeful. Because the approach that we're taking, again with the law, the land rights law is now in place, so supporting the communities to go through the process and own their land, work with them to develop their land use plans, so they are very clear about where they will do which type of activities, including which areas they will conserve, and which areas they will put under potential, and which areas they will use for agriculture.
working with them to put those arrangements in place. So if you put additional resources on top and say, well, if you continue to conserve the area you say you will conserve, this is what we get in return. We believe that that will be a game changer. So I'm very, very positive about that. Thank you.
My name is Lavito Akwefokwa, and I work for Partners in Development, PADEF. My question is, Dr. Emmanuel, you talk about blue carbon financing. I want to know, how can the blue finance or blue carbon financing be assessed? Thank you.
From the EMU, my question goes to the third speaker. You did spoke about the carbon payment for Liberia. You said that Liberia is not taking anything yet because our forests, we are still causing more harm than the good. So will Liberia ever benefit from this, considering the limitation in finances that almost all of the speakers spoke about here?
Earlier, like I said, for Liberia right now, it's from the mangrove ecosystems. So the three things that need to be established before we move ahead with trying to source funding is we have to do a tonnage of the carbon dioxide we have, that's being avoided rather. We need to establish a likelihood of carbon assets that are not degrading over time. And lastly, we have to ease the measurement and verifying of status of the carbon assets over time. So basically what happens is that if we establish the carbon we have within these areas, then we approach, let's say the cost, and then the whole concept of willingness to pay comes in. We have this amount. How much are you willing to pay? So we have two ways. How much are you willing to pay and how much are you willing to accept? So it's both ways if you agree on the environmental economics perspective. So what happens is we have this amount. How much are you willing to pay for? Exactly, the OTP. So what we establish that the resources or the funding getting from that, what we use now to keep funding other conservation activities and bettering the livelihood of the people in that area. So that's what we are trying to pursue right now. Because we call it a blue carbon, right? Like I said, cause of the ecosystem it's found in is no different from the terrestrial ecosystem. I'm not correcting, but we already included mangrove in there, but yeah, I'm talking about the wetland, the coastal ecosystem, so we call it the blue carbon. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, my sister, for your question. Maybe you could just pay a little attention since you asked a question. But I want to answer your question by starting firstly by saying the rare forest assessments done in Liberia from the 1950s up to 2005. What was done in 2018 and 2019 was the first ever national forest inventory done in the Republic of Liberia. What was done in the 1950s by the General Forestry Mission was to do an assessment of marketable timber species. And on the basis of that, the General Forestry Mission even recommended to the government of Liberia places that were suitable to be set aside for protected area, or what was called national forest. 2005, the World Bank sponsor, and it's online, you can go online and check it. 2005, the World Bank sponsor what is called the 2005 Forest Assessment, and there were other assessments done. What we did, 2018, 2019, was the first national forest inventory. Directly to your question, that yes, Liberia can benefit from Rare Plus funding or financing. How can we benefit? The first thing was, when Salah was speaking, he talked about a letter of intent that Liberia signed with Norway in 2014. The letter of intent, $70 million of that $150 million was given to the government of Liberia to ensure that capacity is built in the various government entities that were participating or taking part in carrying on Rare Plus activities in the country. So there are 6 government entities: the FDA, the EPA, Land Authority, LISIS, Ministry of Agriculture, there's one more, and FDA is where I come from, right? So that money was spread across. But more besides, out of that $70 million, $15 million was given directly to the government of Liberia for 3 fiscal years as direct budget support. So indirectly, the people of Liberia already started benefiting just from the discussion with Norway in terms of benefiting from the forest, the remaining forest center. How do we benefit? So what we are doing now, like my colleague from IDH said, we are working with the likes of IDH, FFR, and others to work with communities to ensure that communities change their practices in terms of the way agriculture is done. Because that's one of the drivers. Another thing we are doing is working with the Ministry of Mines and Energy to work with artisanal miners to form them into cooperatives. So the way artisanal mining is done becomes a new ballgame rather than carrying on the same deputation and the rest of that. So once we are able as a country to put in place, or in fact, to go beyond a little bit, improve, and that is not only improve, but create sustainable alternative livelihoods for communities that depend on the forest, then it means their activities in the forest directly will reduce, and once their activities begin to reduce, what happens is the level of carbon in our forest sequence is going to increase, and on the basis of that, Liberia will benefit. So there's a lot that Liberia has to benefit from, but we have to put in place better mechanisms. Like Sarah was saying, the enforcement of the law itself. Just look, we are beginning to have trouble around here. If you go to the southeast, take for example in Nigeria, there is a movement of migrants from Togo and Africa into the middle of our forests. Remember, recently I was listening to the radio, there is a serious movement of Togolese into forests in Mila. And what they are doing is, they are not practicing the normal livelihood activities that our people around those forests practiced in the past, that still gave us forests. So as a result, and it is not only happening because they are coming, but it is happening also from the information some of us are getting from the field, is because some big people are bringing some of these guys to come and farm for them and give them land. But that is a different ballgame. We can discuss that for another time. I don't want to keep people sitting here. I know I said between you and us leaving from here. Thank you.
Thank you so much.